Hi, hello everyone. Welcome to this latest Integrity Systems Company webinar, and thank you for joining us today. Today's webinar is one we've designed specifically for stock agents, so we really appreciate you being able to come along today to take some time out on your Friday to learn a bit more about what's been going on and what's coming with sheep and goat eID and the NLIS and some changes that have come through for LPA this year as well that we wanted to make sure you were across. My name is Cherie Young. I'm the Communications Manager here at Integrity Systems Company and will be your host today. Um, yeah, I just wanted to let you know we are recording this webinar. So we'll be sending out a pack in the coming, probably next week, with a link to this recording, the answers to all the questions that you've already sent through registration. Thank you for doing that. Any questions that come up today in the session, and the slides and some other resources. So it'll all be coming out to you on email. We have got a team of people here in the background who can answer your questions as well. So if you have any extra questions or anything comes to mind during the webinar, please, there's a Q&A box in the bottom of your screen. So we encourage you to just pop your questions in there and the team can get back to you on those. So yeah, so that's pretty much the housekeeping of it all, but I'll just take you through now. The next slide just has our agenda. So what we're going to be talking about today in the next hour. So I'm going to start with a bit of a brief rundown on Integrity Systems Company and our main programs that we run, just as a refresher for anyone who might not be across that. Then I'm going to give you a very brief update on where we're up to with the NLIS database uplift project, which you may have heard about. It's a big project going on at the moment to uplift the current NLIS system. Then my colleague Will, who works with me in the communications team, is going to join to take you through some high-level information to do with sheep and goat eID, so key dates and just important information you need to know about NLIS transfers and that sort of thing. So he can go through that with you. And then George Basher, our operations analyst at ISC, is going to come in and do a demonstration. He'll log into the NLIS system itself and actually show you how to do those movements or what's required. And I guess it's all about helping you understand more and also helping you help your clients as well along the way. Then after George has finished with his demonstration, we'll have Elizabeth Bradley, who is ISC's Quality Compliance and Policy Manager. She's going to talk to you about some changes that came through for the LPA program this year. This is around a new self-assessment process for accreditation and also a module that was added to support harvest rangeland goat movements following the eID rollout in January. So Elizabeth will also then switch into demonstration mode and show you how your producers will access the self-assessment, how they'll go about filling that in, and also touch on how they can do a biosecurity plan through there, how they can then download their recommendations report when they're finished their accreditation, just to get some tips on other ideas they could look at. So that is what we will be covering. Don't forget, we're being recorded, so you can rewatch this and share it with your colleagues. They might like to catch up. And the question and answer box is live and ready to receive questions. So please pop them in as they come to mind. Now, this slide basically just gives you an overview of the programs that ISC manages and runs. So up the top there, we've got the NLIS, the National Livestock Identification System, which is Australia's system for the identification and traceability of cattle, sheep and goats. So with that system, all animals are identified with an approved NLIS tag or device from their property of birth. And as the animals are bought and sold and moved through the supply chain, each of these movements then needs to be recorded on the NLIS. And using this information, the NLIS is able to provide a life history of an animal's movements. So this is a system that's underpinned by state and territory legislation, and it's obviously crucial when it comes to tracking livestock during a disease outbreak or any food safety incidents. So the current NLIS has been now around for over 20 years, and it is getting older, and so a project to uplift it is underway now. And I'll talk a little bit more about that soon. But yeah, basically by the 30th of June 2026, we're tracking to deliver the uplifted system, which will offer a vastly improved user experience. We're very excited about it. The other program that we run is the Livestock Production Assurance Program, or LPA, and this is your on-farm assurance, which basically underpins our market access for Australian red meat. It is the on-farm management of biosecurity, animal welfare and food safety, and accreditation with that gives producers that tick of assurance from their product to the consumer. So definitely a very important accreditation to be involved in. Now, in the middle there, we've got the LPA ENVD or the NVD books. These are the legal documents which communicate that food safety and treatment status of those animals as they move through the supply chain. And then the connector of it all is the PIC, the Property Identification Code, which is allocated to livestock producing properties by state and territory departments. So that's what holds this system together and creates that traceability. So that, in a nutshell, is the programs that Integrity Systems runs. So I'm just going to now jump into the National Livestock Identification System Uplift project, which is, not sure how many of you have heard about it, but it's been going on for a little while now, and we're basically working to uplift the database. So it will have the same core functions as today, but just be delivered in a much more modern way and with greater user experience, more intuitive. So as discussed, the NLIS is what underpins our Australian red meat access, and it is crucial for making sure that livestock can be quickly tracked and traced in the event of an animal disease, an emergency animal disease or food safety. But as we know, the system is getting on, and so that's why this project is underway. It is, I guess, definitely very important to note that it is being supported by a $22.5 million funding grant by the Australian government, and we are tracking to have it delivered, this uplifted system, by the end of June 2026. Now, this next slide basically just provides a very brief project update for you. So at the moment, we're right at the end of stage 3, which is finalising the architecture and design stage, which is basically built off the work that was undertaken during stage 1 and 2, which was about understanding the system and the needs and getting feedback, and then putting that into a kind of design concept that can then be taken through to the build. So preparatory work planning is underway for stage 4, and we are expecting the formal build to commence very soon. Now, all the UI designs or user interface designs that we've come up with and workflows are concepts. So they will be continued to be tested in stage 4. So I just wanted to make that clear that there's a large focus on designing a concept, then getting feedback on it, and then updating that concept based off that feedback. So I just really wanted to make that clear to you. The next big thing for the project will be at the release of a developer portal in January next year. And that will be when our third-party software providers will be able to get in there and work out, the ones that connect up to the NLIS can sort of start to look at how that will fit in with their system. And there'll be change management, training and adoption plans coming out next year. So yeah, so that's kind of where we're up to now. Getting into the guts of the project, which is really exciting. And yep, as I mentioned, we're tracking for full completion by the 30th of June 26. So this slide just gives you a sneak peek into what it might kind of look like when it finally comes through. So on the left of your screen, you've got option A and option B, which were some earlier concept designs that were devised, and then there was lots of feedback and discussions had about those, and that basically rolled us into the larger image that you can see there, that is a combination of the best of option A and the best of option B, according to the feedback that was received. And so we've got to this situation where we've got the main image there. Now, this is just an example of one of the interfaces, and there's obviously going to be many more different screens that will be developed, but this is just to give you a bit of a sneak peek into kind of what it will look like. And when George does his demo, and obviously you would know what the current system looks like, so this is obviously a lot clearer and easier for people to kind of find where they need to be, with the objective being that this system is quick and easy for people to get in, do what they've got to do, and then get out and get on with their day. So that is basically the Uplift project. We're very excited about it and look forward to talking more as the time goes on. But I think that's enough from me. I think we'll hand over to Will now, and he's going to give you some info on the sheep and goat eID rollout. So over to you, Will.
Thanks, Cherie. Hi, everyone. My name's Will, and I'm a communications officer here at Integrity Systems Company. And yeah, I'll just take you through the next couple of slides. So, firstly, sheep and goat eID has been agreed by all the state and territory governments and the Commonwealth government to go ahead. So this is because moving individual sheep and goat movements is, tracking individual sheep and goat movements is much faster than the current mob-based system that we have. And in the issue of basically an animal disease outbreak or food safety outbreak, we'll be able to track those animals down much faster than the current mob-based system that we have. So ISE's role within this is to really make sure that the NLIS database is ready to handle the new volume of data that we will be processing because of these changes implemented. So we've been working a lot on that in the background. And we're also here to basically help people understand how to do these new transfers on the National Livestock Identification System. So we do have George, who is here with us today, and he will be showing you how to do those individual movements, moving away from that mob-based movement that we've been doing. So just to the next slide. So NLIS transfers are the receiver's responsibility. So you must record all livestock movements onto your PIC on the NLIS database within 2 days of the animals coming onto your property. You need to ensure these transfers are happening to remain LPA accredited, and these transfers are legislated by your state and territory governments. So just getting into a bit more about why is it important to actually do these transfers? And this is something that you can kind of relay back to your clients. Basically, during an LPA audit, the auditor will be reviewing your NLIS transfers. And if they have found that these are not happening and you haven't been doing those transfers, you may be issued with a non-conformance by the auditor. And if you do not close these non-conformities, then that may lead to a suspension of your LPA accreditation, which then removes the access to LPA NVDs or the ENVDs. So that may restrict your customers' access to selling into abattoirs and into sale yards. So really important to do those transfers. As well, penalties may be imposed by your state and territory government for failing to complete these transfers as required. And it's not all just, that sort of news. Basically, recording livestock movements through the NLIS is also a market advantage for Australia, as ensuring animals maintain lifetime traceability is becoming increasingly important in certain markets. If transfers are not completed correctly, then lifetime traceability is lost. If you're doing the transfers for your customers, make sure that you are providing them with the upload ID to the customer so that they know that that's happened. Just be aware, Auctions Plus do not complete these transfers for people. And then some sale yards, feedlots, and processors will complete the transfers. But again, it's the receiver's responsibility, so make sure that you're doing those transfers. Okay, so just on to the next slide here. So sheep and goat electronic identification. Our advice is to order the tags in advance or as early as you can. So the state-based rebates are out there at the moment. Just make sure to check with your state as to what that rebate is for you. But they've essentially allocated pools of money. Once that money runs out, that rebate is gone. So they may put in a new one, they may not, who knows. So that's why our advice is to get in early, make sure that you take full advantage of those rebates. and get those tags as soon as you can. So another thing that we really do want to make very clear is to make sure that you are ordering the correct tags for the correct species. So goat tags are for goats, sheep tags are for sheep. When they are uploaded to the National Livestock Identification System, they are identified as an animal. So it will say that this tag is a goat. If they go and have a look and it's a sheep, that obviously becomes quite confusing and slows down the whole process if we do get into one of those situations with food safety and So just coming down a little bit further, on the tags, you can identify which species that tag belongs to via these codes. So as you can see here, for sheep, the code is S. For the post-breeder sheep, the code is T. For the goats, it's K. And for the goat post-breeder, it's L. So just make sure that you are putting those tags on the correct animals. Now, the year of birth colours, you have to use a year of birth colour if you are in WA. If you are not in WA, you do not need to use the year of birth colour. However, it is recommended. You can use the yellow for any year if you're not in WA. The suggestion here would be speak to your customers and work with them as to what the best option is for them. But you do have those two options if you're not in WA, otherwise year of birth colour is required. So now just going through, so got an issue with NLIS eIDs. So we know that people do have issues with the tags sometimes. Now, if these NLIS devices fall out, break, are not recording with a scanner, not being able to be read visually, causing animal welfare impacts, or being difficult to apply, then the only way to improve the device is to let us or the manufacturer know. So it's really important that you pass this feedback back to either us or the manufacturer. In the first instance, if you have a lot of retention or readability issues and are seeking replacement devices or refunds, you can contact your suppliers directly to start a case with them under warranty or a replacement process. Suppliers must report these cases to ISC. So we do see these complaints come through. You can also lodge issues with devices directly with ISC through our website. And we will follow up on those, and we just make sure that those devices are all good to go, or if they need amending. And so I guess like the question is, what do these companies do if they do find an issue? Like, what are some of the things that they may change with the device? Well, look, they may make changes to the applicators. They may make changes to the instructions, to the plastics, to the manufacturing process itself to overcome the issue. And there have been cases before where an NLIS approved device has been withdrawn, and trials are always underway to improve these devices and make sure that they are fit for purpose. So just on to the next slide. So ISC has a bunch of resources available for you. On our website, we have our sheep and goat eID page. So when new information comes to us, we make sure to update that page with the most up-to-date information, and there's a bunch of handy resources on that page. We also have done this year some explainer videos, which are on our YouTube channel, as you can see just there. These are short 4-minute videos, so great on just explaining the general basics of what's happening here. Then we have our flyers, as you can see there. We have our sheep and goat desk mat, which you can see as well. So that's really good for just making sure that you're ordering the correct device that you need. And then there's a bunch more resources on sheep and goat through like government websites and things like that. But now I'll pass on to George, who will run you through a demonstration of the NLIS system.
Thank you, Will. Thank you. Will raised some exceptionally good points. There is a Q&A if you needed to ask any questions. I just noticed that no one's asked a question yet. So feel free to shoot some questions if you have any. As explained, I'm going to go through how to use NLIS very quickly, very briefly. The first thing is we go to NLIS.com up in the top left. A lot of you will already have accounts with the system. So log into NLIS.com, and I'm going to log in via MyMLA. So this is the way it's going to go in the future, log in via MyMLA. So if you haven't already done this, it's a good idea. So I'll click on here, log in via MyMLA. And to create a MyMLA account, it's an email address and a password. I've got my email address there, the password automatically saved. It's now logging me into my MyMLA account. And when it comes up, it does a few things. First and foremost, it's a dashboard. So if you have a look here, and you can set up your own bits and pieces of your dashboard, whatever area you're in, whatever species you're looking at, you can add and remove a lot of these dashboards like these ones below. The other big advantage is you can link all of the products or programs that we run, MLA, so Med Stand Australia, MSA, the NLIS, obviously LPA, EMVDs, MyFeedback fairly new, which is data, and sheep genetics. And you can add as many accounts as you want. So today we'll go into NLIS. Click on Continue NLIS. I've got 3 accounts here. So these are my own test accounts. I'll log into my agent account. So if you have a producer you're doing work for, you can add their account into your system, and when they come into your office, you can sit down with them and go through the paperwork and the database. So we're clicking login. It's now taking me to my agent homepage. Over here is the help tools. So I'll click on help tools, and these are all the help tools for cattle. Some are quite old, November 2012, but they're still valid. So I use this to run and upload tech tips. You can print them off, leave them on the screen. There's a fair few of them, and they're species specific. So there's a few there for sheep. So we'll go back home. And I like to minimize, I'll get rid of these headers. So click on hide header. It's easier to demonstrate and easier for me. Now I have to wear glasses, so it makes the screen a bit bigger. So at the moment, I want to work with, we've got cattle, sheep mobs, and goat mobs. We don't have sheep eID because I haven't been working with them yet. So we need to add that in. So the first thing we do after we've logged in, what do I want to do today? I want to, up here, right at the top, change my types of livestock. And there's also view edit my account. It's good to add, but to make sure that your data and, all your contact details are up to date. So just click on sheep individual, goat individual, continue. And now in this drop-down menu, we'll have all these different species. So click on sheep individual. Like I said, click on change, or from your home page, view edit my account details. Keep your email and phone number up to date so we can contact you if we need to. Typically for things like this, so for webinars, any changes to the database that come in, if you're going to take the database offline for a couple of hours to do some work. So it's a very good idea to keep it up to date. So we'll go through doing a transfer on behalf of one of your customers. And remember, it's always the receiver's responsibility. And Will did mention this a couple of times, it's the receiver's responsibility. And it's really handy for the receiver, so your producers, to have an upload ID. And I'll go through what that is. So when you do a transfer with someone, try and provide the upload ID for the producer. So if they do get audited, they can say, yes, my agent did it, and here's the upload ID. I've been in this job now for 25 years, been working on NLIS, and the last probably 7 or 8 years on LPA. And one of the most common issues auditors raise is the transfer wasn't done, and the reply we always get is the agent said they were going to do it, or I thought the agent was going to do it. So please just make sure it's quite clear that you are doing it for them or you're not doing it for them. So we're going to go, so this is change into the database, sorry, to your account, and notify the database of. These are changes you can make. That is, moving an animal, changing the status of an animal, and then down below, list of reports. So today we're going to go through livestock moved, and there are two choices. There's two different ways you move eID for sheep and goats. There's what's called a non-written authority, and this is the same for cattle, or what we call written authority. We'll do the non-written authority, and I'll explain that as we go. So sheep, goats, and SA camelids, alpacas, which are alpacas and llamas, South American camelids. There we go. Usually the easiest way to do it is do it on screen. So you can upload a file. If you've created a file, you can start choosing from a list, and this list will give you everything on your pick or the picks you're working for. So we'll click on type in the details. And here's the information you need to upload. So here you put the tag numbers in, copied some tag numbers. Now, obviously, that's the microchip number. This is the tag number printed on the outside of the tag. Where are they coming from? Coming from, these are my test accounts, coming from QDZZ. And they're going to QKZZ1111. Again, these are my test picks. Now the number of head is 20. Now obviously there's not 20 tags here. There's 1, 2, 3. There's only 5 tags. One of the questions we did receive earlier in the week for people who registered for this webinar is, well, how do I do both? That is, some of the animals that I'm transferring in May next year would have been born in 2025. The others, the year of drop was 2024. So there's a mix of eID tagged animals and visual tagged animals. This is the way to do it. So you do two things in one. So what we're doing is we're moving eID for these, and we're saying the total head count was 20. Then we enter in the NVD or ENV number. So they're moving today. And this is the difference between written authority and non-written authority. So there are many producers who got access to this called non-written authority. So your state and territory allow you to do movements on behalf of any pick. And you have to select these 4 bits of information, 4 fields. So who are you looking for? Is it the buyer, seller? Most of the time you're doing it for the buyer. Or if your customers or clients are both, you put the buyer. And what is the buyer's name? The buyer's George. So this is saying you're working on behalf of the buyer. This is who the buyer is, and I authorize I'm doing the right thing. Let me click down to continue. This always is the next page and the last page before setting to the database. So before sending to the database, it says you're confirming you're sending them from here to here. The total head count is 20. That's the waybill number. These are the dates and it's who you're sending it for and to. And the tag numbers. Hit send. This is now obviously posting this data to NLIS, and it's going to come up with a upload ID in a couple of seconds. And this is the upload ID confirmation that you need to send to your users, to your producers, so they've got verification when they get audited. When they get audited, they can say, this is what we've done. So there's the upload ID. Now in this particular case, because we're doing 2 things, that's the one file we just did. Let's split the file into 2. This is the individual 5 tags. This is the head count of 20. So it does both. So these are what we call the upload ID. We are going to change this terminology because it's not actually quite correct. It's the transaction ID. So we're going to be changing these, but this is the upload ID, transaction ID. Very handy for you to send on to your producers. So we click on view my transaction history down here. This is going to give us a result of what happened. So we're looking at what have I done today, view all my transactions I've committed today, continue. And that was the number we just saw, 990. And it says here, the full XML, that means it's both the transfer of the 6 animals and the 20 head. And it's split up into 2. So the top one here is, as you can see, it says mob. So that's the count of 20. And this one here is the individual. Now there's got a warning here. So we'll click on this. These are the 6 tags. 5 tags, can't count. They're the 5 tags we transferred. The same data we saw before. So that's the buyer. That's where they came from, the serial number, the date. So we'll click over here to the warning. I always pull one in so we can show people what warning looks like. So this is a typical warning saying you transfer one animal. The NLIS had this registered to a different pick. So this tag was on another property. I did that on purpose just to show you the typical warning. So we told the database move this animal from QDZZ3333 to the QKZ1, but we had it registered somewhere else altogether. So this is the most common warning NLIS sends, just saying that it wasn't actually where you told us it was, but we have moved it. So that's the big difference. We do move it, and we call what they call a system transfer. This animal loses its lifetime traceability, and I know some feedlots now are insisting on animals having lifetime traceability. So this is what happens when an animal hasn't been transferred to this pick here. So QDZZ moved it to QKZZ just now, but it was still registered to the original pick. So that's a very typical, what they call a warning, actually called a warning number 21, and drops down the lifetime traceability. Close this out. We'll go back home. And we'll look at if you have written authority. So some states and territories don't allow you to have non-written authority. They want you to, every producer that you're working for, fill in a form. So if you do that, we actually link their pick to your account. So I'll click on this one here. Looks like they've moved onto my property. We're doing the sheep and goat one. There we go. We'll do it on screen again. Exact same information. So there's the tag numbers. They're going where they're coming from. These are my picks now. So these are the picks that are linked to this account. So they're coming onto my pick. Where they're coming from. What's the MVD serial number? Number of head, 20. So this is what's missing from here. The 7, 8, 9, 10, which is you're working on behalf of the buyer or the vendor or both, their first name, second name, and the authorization tick box. But exactly the same. So these are for picks that are linked to your account. You may have 1, 2, you may have 100. Obviously, a lot easier to get non-written authority. And initially, the state and territories and industry didn't want this non-written authority. Everything had to be linked with a signed form. They've now relaxed that because of changes, and there's actually a fingerprint or footprint all the time. We know who's done it. We've got all the records, got all the data. So hence, this process here now is rarely used by stock agent accounts. It's mainly used by what they call third-party accounts, and someone's just doing the scanning and uploading on behalf of somebody else. So very simple, exact same process. Back home. I won't put it through. Another one is moving my stock off your own property. So these are your agent accounts. Not every agent, this particular account doesn't have an agent account, agent pick, beg your pardon, but some agents have a pick, some agents don't have picks. In Queensland, there are no picks issued to agents, whereas all the other state and territories do, except for Queensland and I think the Territory. So that's your basic transactions. that you do on behalf of a producer. Next one is some reports. We'll just go through a few quick reports. Search the pig register. This is the most run report in our system. So you type in the pick, click go, and it gives you the details that the NLIS database holds. Now we get this information from the state and territories. It tells you if it's an active pick or non-active pick. Obviously, ERP inquiry. Oh, beg your pardon. Under reports, ERP pick status. That other ERP inquiry just did is when you want to upload large list of picks. Same thing as this. Tells us if it's LPA accredited. This is again the test account, whether it has any residue issues, OCs, bottom trash, sea bovis, etc. Doesn't have any of them, but it has an early warning, which means an animal on this pick, at least one animal on this pick has an issue. This is the ERP pick status, second most run report after the pick register. And the last report is this beast inquiries report, where trying to find the beast inquiry report now. No, it's been taken off my account. But allows you to see the current residence of one tag. So you put a tag in there, and it tells you where that animal is on that pick. Oh, so the pick that animal is currently registered to. That sums it up for me. So, like I said, make sure that you communicate with the producer that you will be or you will not be doing the transfer, please. That's like I said, it's a common call I get. Probably get 3 or 4 a week. They said they were going to do it. Simply say, show us the upload ID. So it'd be great if you could share that upload ID or transaction ID with the producer, or at least let them know that you will not be doing it. Thank you. Over to you, Elizabeth.
Thanks, George, and hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us this Friday. So as Sheree mentioned it at the start, I'm Elizabeth, and I'm going to run you through some of the LPA changes and a little bit of a demonstration around the key change that we've made this year in relation to accreditation, and a little bit about the harvested rangeland goats and what's happening in that side of industry as well. So to kick us off, we'll start with the accreditation changes in LPA that have happened in 2024. So livestock producers that you have as customers will all need LPA accreditation if they want access to the LPA NVD system and basically be able to move those livestock through the supply chain with those NVDs. The way that producers accredit and re-accredit in LPA changed in September of this year. What we did was we made it a bit easier to do it. So if you're ever helping out producers doing accreditation, or they ask you for help, or you're involved in that process in any way, shape or form, or you're a producer yourself, the self-assessment tool basically makes it a bit easier to complete. It also makes the LPA requirements a little bit more known. So it actually goes through, explains them, and gets the producer to assess themselves against that standard or requirement by answering a set of questions. So there's no right or wrong answers. It's more about getting that educational experience through, and also providing a customised report at the end of it that gives them links to resources and tools that they can use to better meet the LPA standards as they go forward. So the steps, which I'll show in just a second, kind of step it through, make it a little bit easier to get through the process as well online. So it is online as a option to work through. So they log in via MyMLA, like George showed. Instead of going to NLIS, you go to LPA, and then you come across and do the self-assessment. So it's a pretty great tool, and I'm not saying that because I helped build it, but it's I'm going to show you how it's working at the moment. It's 3 main steps. Obviously, if they have MSA accreditation, there's a step in there for MSA as well. I'm just going to switch my screen over and just show you a little bit about the self-assessment. So if you do it yourself or you're helping out producers, you know exactly what's going on. So to start off, once you're logged into the LPA database, if accreditation is due, so it's available 6 months before accreditation is due, but if it's due, this is the accreditation screen that will pop up when you log in. As you can see, there's 3 main steps: do the self-assessment, do the declaration, and make the payment. They can also access the learning modules down the bottom, so that's always available there for them to complete at any time as well for free. To start it off, I have answered some questions just to speed up the kind of process, but effectively it's as simple as hitting the start button. Just bear with the computer. I'm actually on our test environment, so it might be a little bit slower than normal. So the first thing that's going to pop up is a prompt, and that prompt is trying to get producers to keep in the front of their mind they need a biosecurity plan, which is a part of their LPA accreditation. So if they have already uploaded one, it'll just go, it's already done, and move forward. They have the option to complete it online using the online tool here. I'll upload a document, or they can skip it and then just simply answer the biosecurity questions that come up in the self-assessment. So they do provide the biosecurity plan. It will skip out those biosecurity questions, so it shortens the time that they have to do that self-assessment. So uploading is pretty simple. You hit the button, upload the file, or drag and drop it if that's more their style as well. Once you hit upload, it says it's great, and then they can continue on. And so what that will do, and I'll show you that in a second, is it will actually remove those biosecurity questions from the self-assessment because we know that they've met that biosecurity requirement. So this is the self-assessment section that asks the question. So you can see it's built into sections that go through the different parts of the LPA standards. So it'll not ask some questions and ask other questions based on the species that producer has. So for example, we don't have a biosecurity section in here anymore because the biosecurity questions have been answered, but effectively there's questions at the front that ask the producer just to confirm information about themselves, confirm the species they have, and that helps customize the self-assessment as well. So effectively they just next through all of the questions until they get a green tick along everything. I've answered all of these ones. I won't take you through all of them, but if you do an accreditation or help someone out with one, you'll get to see that in full-fledged. There's links here as well within the information that's provided, so those resources are available at the touch of your fingertips. We'll just answer some questions, so it's not too difficult. Ignore the red bar, that's because it's on the test site. It asks questions around the animal welfare training, or have they been through the training? So you can answer the question to the best of their ability, and they simply go through those questions until they finish all of them. We'll just answer these ones relatively quickly. And then there's a question at the end, and we've moved fit to load at the end because we feel it fits a little bit better with welfare, but it does give them access to the MLA fit to load guide. So there's, again, resources in and around that. We're asking questions around how they load them onto the facilities, all those sorts of things. So we go through all of the standards that the producers need to meet, and potentially how it intersects with moving livestock through the supply chain as well. Which is they get this finalised. Once they're finished, they finalise it. Then they come to the LPA declaration, which is basically just noting that they understand, they've read the rules, they know their obligations. They agree to have an audit if they get selected, and all of the requirements. Then they pay the fee. I'm going to use a fake credit card that works on our test site. So if you're trying to use it for online shopping, it won't work, but we'll see where the test site takes us. It does give a prompt if they haven't got MSA accreditation. It lets them order their NVG books here as well if they want to do that online. I go finalise. Confirm their contact details, and then let's just pay with our fake credit card. What happens after the payment screen, they're prompted into providing us some feedback. They don't have to, of course, to try and improve the process. And once they're all completed, they'll get their certificate, they'll get their invoice, they get all their emails saying that they're accredited for the next round of accreditation. And then they also can download the LPA recommendations report as well. So if they click on this button, it's actually going to generate that report that's got all the customized guidance in it based on the answers in the self-assessment that they've just completed. So it's a really great tool to allow giving producers that customized guidance and information right into their hands. And equally, if you want to see that one yourself and you're a producer, you can actually download it and use it if you like as well. It's taking a little bit to download. There we go. Hopefully that's shared properly, but effectively it now provides all the information and links to resources that potentially might help the producer. So if they clicked on this link here, it would take them to the property risk assessment tools and things like that. So they can basically run through all the recommendations. This is obviously a fake one, but we're trying to put more information in the hands of the producers, so everything's a little bit easier and better. But that's all on the self-assessment. So we're going to switch back now and start to look at the harvested rangeland goat module within LPA, which is the new requirements around goat. Before we do that, sorry, I missed one slide. I just wanted to provide a reminder around accreditation reminders. So we do give producers lots of time and lots of notifications and lots of reminders to complete their accreditation before it falls due. So 60 days or 2 months before accreditation is due, we're sending out emails and SMSs to producers with those contact methods on their profile. We send out a reminder again at 45 days. Producers don't have an email address on file. They get a letter a month out beforehand, as well as an SMS. Again, we do it 15 days beforehand. And then also when those accreditations lapse or fall out of commitment, then we also send a reminder saying, hey, you're no longer LPA accredited, so please jump on. If you do have your agent email or your contact details on producers' profiles and you're getting these reminders, it's really important to action them, because the producer is the one that obviously loses the accreditation if it's not done and they're not getting those reminders. So that's a key thing. We send out all forms of communications all the time about LPA, but that accreditation process is available 6 months before accreditation is due, so there's ample time to get it done if they're being proactive as well. All right. Some other key changes that we've made from 1st of September as well is around the accreditation renewal period. So it was 3 years, we've moved it back to 2 years. Again, this is around trying to increase the robustness of the program, especially when we're trying to sell our meat overseas and our assurance system. It's also helping producers stay up to date with the LPA requirements and improve awareness. So once everyone's gone through that version of the self-assessment, we can actually change those questions and keep that education moving forward as well, which is a really great way and why we've implemented that tool. Accreditation costs are the same, so it's $90 for 2 years of accreditation, and those fees goes towards things like our audit program, our support costs, our contact centre, webinars and education, and all those sorts of things that we do to run the LPA program. Now we can talk about the new harvested rangeland goat module. So harvested rangeland goats are ones that are captured from wild states. So they're our rangeland goats that people find wandering around. We've added a new voluntary module into the LPA program from the 1st of October this year, which allows producers who capture harvested rangeland goats to continue to move them without an electronic tag from the 1st of January next year using a new NVD called the harvested rangeland goat NVD. Harvested rangeland goats are a special type of goat, and they can only move once they're captured to a registered goat depot or directly to slaughter. So it's really important that producers who are in this only do that. Maybe you don't have anything to do with it, and that's fine. But if producers are seeking to do that, they need to apply through their LPA account and get that accreditation so they can do that. In terms of a harvested rangeland goat, the key things is there will be a new version of the goat NVD coming through. So there's 2 questions that have been removed from that red goat NVD, which is in relation to tag-free movements and movements and treatments for those harvested rangeland goats. So that new version of that NVD is available now. So it's been available, and the hard copy books have been going out since the 1st of October, as well as the eNVD version of that was live this week. The harvested rangeland goat NVD is a new NVD, and so that's only available for purchase to those producers in that harvested rangeland goat module, which is that light blue one. If they are accredited in a harvested rangeland goat module as well, they have to have an audit once every accreditation cycle, and there's lots of monitoring and oversight of those producers as well. The registered goat depots also will be audited every year, and they also have to be accredited in that harvested rangeland goat module to make sure that the harvested rangeland goats are truly harvested rangeland and can continue moving without an electronic tag. So that's all from me. I'll see if there's any questions for me, but Sheree, back to you.
Great. Thanks, Elizabeth. That was very informative. Look, I hope, I guess before we sign off, we're almost at the end of today's session, but if you have got questions, put them in the chat. Like we said, there's plenty of people ready to answer them for you. Before we do finally wrap up, I guess I just wanted to summarize our top 3, what we see as our top 3 takeaways that we're hoping you can take away from this session, because obviously there is a lot to cover and yeah, it can get a bit overwhelming. So this is what we consider to be our top 3 integrity takeaways. And I guess number 1 is that we encourage you to talk to your producer customers and talk to them about the requirement of livestock transfers on the NLIS. Now, so that it's the receiver's responsibility to do that within the 48 hours. So if you choose to do that on their behalf as part of your client service, then we'd just say, as George mentioned, just to send through a copy of that upload ID number to the producer, so they've got it there on hand in the event that they might get called up for an audit or something like that. So they've just got all their records and they know that the stock have been moved. So that's kind of our number 1 point. Number 2 just comes back to that timing. So sheep and managed goats born on or after 1 January 2025 will need to have an eID and be individually moved on the NLIS. So from 1 January 2027, every animal will need to have an eID. And then in WA, it's from 1 July 2026 that every animal will need to have an eID. So they're kind of the main points for that. And I guess just touching back on what Will said and George is just that it's just really important to keep encouraging producers to buy species-specific tags that are coded for sheep or for goats, because it's really important that they have the right tags in their ears. Now, the last point is around LPA accreditation. Elizabeth just touched on that. She explained the routine of communications that go out to producers to let them know that their accreditation's about to be expiring. In some cases, you might get those notifications. So just to keep everything moving and so they're not sort of caught out, we really encourage producers to make sure their accreditation is valid, that they've re-accredited when they need to, because obviously this will mean they can access the NVD or the eNVD when they need it. And I guess by having that all kind of organised and sorted just means it might limit the chances of you getting a late night Sunday night call from a producer who's kind of stuck because they're not sure what to do because their accreditation's run out, and I can't imagine that'd be much fun. So we wouldn't want that. But that would be our top 3 tips. Yeah, basically lots of talking and keeping them aware of what's going on, which I'm sure you do. Now, to help with this, we have got a lot of resources on the website and we'll be sending them all out to you. Lots of how-to guides about uploading data, covering the individual movements, and as George covered, individual and mob-based and how they can be combined. We've got a full list of approved NLIS devices for sheep and goats. There's a link in this slide that you'll receive. There's the form there if there are issues with the tags, the state and territory contacts, and some other sheep and goat eID resources. And then we've got LPA self-assessment support and a further info sheet on harvested rangeland goats and that module. Then, yeah, so I guess that does bring us up to the end of the webinar. There is a survey going into the chat that we'd really appreciate if you could fill in, because that gives us really important feedback on how you found this webinar. Was it useful? Is there topics you'd like us to talk about more or less? Any feedback is always good because that helps us get better for next time, which is what we want to do. So I hope you found this useful. Just want to thank you all for taking an hour out on your Friday. I know it gets busy at the end of the year, so thank you very much for your time. And I wanted to thank the team, Elizabeth and George and Will, for being able to contribute to today. And we've got Callum helping in the background with questions. Yeah, so great effort, and we'll get this pack out to you next week. So thank you very much.